Okay. Good morning, Rabbi Say. Sorry, do you mind just only because of thank you. Sorry. So today we want to dedicate this Chabura, this Shia, to Leilu Nishmas, Dr. Skoblo, Reuven Ben Binyamin, whose Yahrzeit it is.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So, what we want to do today is we want to look at two Teshuvos of Rabbi Moshe Sternbuch, Shlita, and look at the way that, and possibly contrast it to what we did last week, looked at the way that Rav Zilberstein approached this Shaila, and this is the way we want to look at the two Teshuvos from Rabbi Moshe Sternbuch, and I think after this we will probably begin to wrap up, and I'm going to go with you through some of the legal stuff and some of the reactions of the various range of Jewish organizations to relatively recent legislation, mainly in America, and then we'll move on probably to another sugya. Okay, because I mean this is something we could go on for a long time. There's a lot of stuff, and I hope we're picking something up along the way. Okay, two Teshuvos. So let us start with Teshuva. Let's start this way. The one which says Simon Tov Shin Lamed Hey. You got it? Yeah. Let's go through this. She'ela. The question that was asked of Rabbi Moshe Sternbuch was as follows. To be noted, as will become clear as we go through the Teshuva, is that this Shaila was asked of him when he was based in South Africa. Okay? So, She'ela, Roife Yehudi Shoyle Mutter Loses Lagoya Kadurim Lahapil Ubra. Question is whether a Jewish medical practitioner is allowed to give tablets that will cause to terminate a pregnancy to a Goya, to a Gentile woman. So he says as follows: B'tshuvas Maharit don bezeve in maskanoso brura. The Maharit discusses this. His conclusion is somewhat inconclusive. V'hinei ika iser etzichas ubrim b'goy chamor tvei. Undoubtedly, as we have discussed at length, the fundamental concept, the issue, the prohibition of feticide. There's a good word for you. I don't know in Germany if you have that. A fetus is feticide. To kill one's father is
Patricide.
Patricide, yes. A brother, fratricide.
Latin. There it is.
There you go. Okay. Okay. So I think it's a good word. I don't know. It probably has an equivalent in German also. Anyway, so Ika Isser Tzichas Ubrim Begoy Chamur Tvei. We know that it is stricter. Sheneherag Afalo Ubrim. It is a capital offense for Gentiles. Masha'ein Kain B'Yisrael She'ein Nerag Ala Ubrim. For a Jew, the equivalent is, although it's forbidden, and he seems to be saying that it is forbidden under the rubric of Retzicha, but Dinoi Mosur La Shomayim Bilvad. And this is in line, by the way, with the Meshech Chochmah, which we haven't even learnt. There's so much more, just to remind you, there's so many Marmakim say we can't do everything. Okay, so it's Mosur La Shomayim, it's a Din B'dei Shomayim. Omnot, Kol Zeh B'Ubaracha Mem Yoim. This is only so with a fetus after 40 days. Aval Kodim L'chein Nireh. Now here he starts immediately inputting his own quite a distinctive stamp and his approach. Listen, he starts immediately with this lumdus. This is all true of an Uber after 40 days. But beforehand, nireh, it would appear. When he says that, what is he telling me? Nireh, it would appear. It means this is my supposition, my conjecture, my view, my opinion, my considered opinion. Nireh, given that the root of the prohibition for a Gentile is shefech dam ha'adam ba'adam. A man within a man, a human within a human. In halacha, we deem the 40-day threshold to be that which gives the tzura, the shape, the structure, the form of man. In halacha, the language that is used is it's mayo ba'alma. It's liquid. And this, by the way, there's another, I'm just going to mention it very briefly. We're not going to go into it, but be aware there is a big topic, which is the disposal of embryonic matter that is unwanted. Let's say in IVF or in PGD, pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. We're not even going to go into that. But where you have, or reduction of fetal matter, right? There is fetal matter. Can you just dispose it? How? Depends on this to some extent. There would be no prohibition for an akum to abort before 40 days. Now here he does a really interesting thing. He says, Grudzinski, that we saw, is inclined to be makel that before 40 days it is not a capital offense for a goy. Ve'im kain ein isur. That means, therefore, not only is it not a capital offense, it means it's not asur at all. Why? She'az horoson zuhi misoson. There is a halachic principle that when it comes to a Gentile, there is no division of the legislation and then the punishment. They are one and the same. As horoson, the warning, the do not, is itself the misa. It is the imperative for the misa. They're not separated, whereas often for Jews in Torah there is. You have the lav, and then you'll have malchus, or you'll have momain, or you'll have kabli b'Rabbinerseminar or misa, or misa b'dei shamayim. With the rule with the goy is as horoson zui misoson. Therefore, says Rabbi Sternbuch, if Rabbi Moshe said there is no misa, that means, de facto, that there is. We can deduce that there is no azhara, so it's actually mutter. He's reverse engineered this, so to speak. V'chein mevor b'Toras Chesed, the Lublina Toras Chesed, Shutzofnas Paneach. That is the Rogat Shava. Beis Shlomo v'Aynoi b'Zeh Igrus Moshe, who doesn't seem to agree. V'av she'ein adova baruch kein l'chol haposkim. So it's a machlekes haposkim. Nira kivin sheyesh b'zeh plugta bein haposkim shuv ein issa lifnei iver. The minute you have, here he comes at Rav Zilberstein's question of lifnei iver. He says, you cannot say that there is lifnei iver, because in order for it to be lifnei iver, it needs to be definitively lifnei iver. But if it's a machlekes haposkim, maybe I'm not doing an issa. So I don't even need to pasken the machlokes haposkim, whether or not pre-40 days for a Gentile, whether it's mutter or asa, I'm not going to pasken. But one thing it does tell me for sure, there's no lifnei iver. You can't tell me I'm over lifnei iver if there are significant poskim who say that it's actually perfectly okay. So when it's a sofek issa, there's no lifnei iver. Let's look at this. Shuv ein issa lifnei iver. De meire davka bevadai dumya da'orkim for beritva. As we see this from a Ritva, for after marriage was suffering Vimitzias, even though over there, where the Ritva draws this concept, this rule, that's where the doubt is not in halacha, but the doubt is in physical reality. Nire shagamki agavna ro'oi lahatil lismoich b'goy kadas hamakilim. So here we have a beautiful, very interesting, and quite important halachic principle that the notion of lifnei iver will not apply where it is subject to a machlokes haposkim. V'roife Yehudi. And therefore a Jew that is asked to perform an abortion on a Gentile, so the Isser is whatever the Isser is for them. Even though for a Jew the fetus is considered a nefesh before 40 days, but not for the Gentile, and I'm doing it for the Gentile, so it's mutter. Even though it's different for a Jew. But this is not the shaila here. Here the shaila is for a Jewish doctor to do the abortion for an Eino Yehudi. But anyway, he says, this is moot. I don't know how you say this in German. Moot means... Anyway, it's all highly theoretical, and it's not going to be lamaisa. Because all of this discussion we've just had, this halachic discussion, is on the basis that the society, that the law permits it. Avo b'medinos shelafi chukei hamedina osur gam kodim arboim yom. But in the countries where kamoy kan b'darom Africa, he says here in South Africa, it is forbidden. At that time, I don't have a date for this tshuva, but it was forbidden to do an abortion even before 40 days. If that's the case, b'nei noach mitzuvin ala dinim. One of the Shiva mitzvahs b'nei noach is that they must follow the laws enacted in that locale, which are done for the purpose of preserving order in society. And if the duly constituted legislative and executive organs of the state have deemed the law is that it's forbidden, then it becomes also them for b'nei noach. That we have to do tzedek and mishpat with their mitzvahs, which includes ritzicha. Then now we're back to lifnei iver. I'm not allowed to do it because for them it's also not. Interestingly enough, not from the perspective of ritzicha or the abortion side of it, which is ritzicha, but coming at it from a whole different angle. It now becomes dinin to the imperative to uphold whatever is needed for a just and orderly society. That's included in dinim, and if the parliament and the law have decided this is the law, then you've got to look at then I can't do lifnei iver from a dinim perspective. This is so, what's so good about this? I mean, to me, always that these sort of things is how it forces clear thinking, so clear critical thinking. We have to know what is the issa under what halacha. So, even though you might argue that the word dinim means just financial matters, but Ramban and Pashas Vayishlach, and therefore it would be, if as was the case in South Africa, it would be forbidden, then it would be also anyway. He does add in the brackets at the end of this paragraph, seems that at the time, at least, South Africa had much stricter abortion laws. Now, okay, that's all we dealt with before 40 days. What about after 40 days? Once the fetus is more than 40 days old, it is now Odom ba'Odom. Even if the law of the land were to say it is okay, halacha would still say no. Because as far as we're concerned, the Nachri is Chayav Misa. And here he goes into it's a sidebar, but it's a big topic. You need to be aware of this. He says even if there is a sakona for the mother, there's no din of pikuach nefesh for a Nachri. Nistatgu b'Tosfos Sanhedrin im lahat lahapil. Tosfos wasn't sure. Maybe there is no din roidif. It was a suffix in Tosfos, as we saw. And therefore, if it's a suffix where it's a roidif, you have to be machmir. Unless other Gentile doctors have signed that it's definitely a sakona, and he's only he is just going along with them. But after they have signed, now here he comes at this again. So it's very clever. He says, now we need to look at this from another angle. What would be... See, Rav Zilberstein focused very much on the Lifnei Iver element. And then we spoke about Chad Avra Denara. I don't know if you've had a chance to see the video. Chad Avra Denara, Trey Avra Denara, right? One side of the river, two sides of the river. The Machlekas, the Mishnah Lemelech with the Chasam Sofer, with Bat Ribis. Yeah, you have to do Chazorah, but okay? But he focused on that. Here he comes at this from a whole different angle. He says, well, hold on a second. If I don't do it, somebody else will. Now, normally, very often that's not enough for Lifnei Iver. Certainly, according to the Mishnah Lemelech. It might not, that might not do it. But here he comes at this, it's genius from a different angle. Forget Lifnei Iver for a second. If I don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. That means this baby is gone. So maybe I should look at it like a Gavra Ketila. Somebody that is about to be put to death. What's the halacha? Somebody that has been judged and found guilty and they were about on the way to put him to death. Basically, on the way to put him to death. There's been a... go on. What do you remember, Gabby?
Did we say about Goises that he's like... We had something where we said that...
No, slow down. No, but he's got a point. Guys, you need to remember this distinction.
Okay.
The question is not whether it is mutter. The reason you're quite right. You may not touch a Goises. You may not hasten somebody's death. What happens if you did? Are you Chayav Misa?
No.
No, nobody.
No.
Rega, you're not chayiv misa. A treifa, somebody that does not have 12 months to live, if you kill them, you're not chayiv misa. It is osur and it is ritzicha, right. But it doesn't carry with it, it isn't a capital offense. Because that person is a bar katila. Once we drew the distinction, if you remember, based on the Gemara, of somebody who is in Beis Din and the Sanhedrin have not yet passed his chayiv misa, or if they have. Remember, that was the distinction. Calls man the Beis Din have not yet passed, he is chayiv misa. Then of course, then if you do kill him, you are chayiv misa. Correct. Once Beis Din have passed is chayiv misa.
It's a different ruling for him.
Correct. Now you're still not allowed to kill him, and it's ritzicha, but it itself won't be chayiv misa. So now Rav Moshe is saying, well, let's look at the status of this fetus. If I, this Jewish doctor, Dr. Goldstein, if I'm not going to do it, they're going to go down the corridor to the next Dr. Umbeki Muzwale, whatever. I don't know why I said that. Some African, whatever. He was in South Africa.
Right.
Somebody else is going to do it. It's going to happen.
Okay.
That is. It seems that's not even there's no doubt. There's no doubt.
Then it changes its status.
Then it's a barakatila. Then it's like a treifa. Then it's like somebody who the Sanhedrin of. Now that there's no now. Mm-hmm. So this. Let's see where he goes with this. According to the law, once, let's say, he's talking in South Africa, which is very strict on the one hand, but we're talking about a scenario where they have deemed there is a danger to the mother, the other doctors have deemed there is, and they've signed off on it. Mm-hmm. So now, al pi halacha, al pi the law of the land, it's okay, and it's going to happen. So maybe we should say the kid is now considered. Or that's one possibility. Or Dilma, maybe we should say, maybe we don't look for this concept, we don't look at the law of the land, maybe for this we look at the halacha. Because if there's no din of pikuach nefesh for a goy, then as far as we're concerned, there's no difference. So it's a fascinating shaila, very subtle. You with me? According to the law of the land, now this fetus is going to be aborted. You don't do it, somebody else is going to do it. So maybe it should already be considered as a bar katila. Or do we say we only say that when the situation is either the person physically is going to die anyway, or basically is going to kill him lawfully? But what would be if somebody's going to kill him unlawfully, from our perspective, but it's definitely going to happen? Maybe that's not enough. What would be if, for example, and maybe this would be a parallel. Let's, as I'm saying it, I'm thinking, what would be, this is highly hypothetical, right? It's just in the abstract. I see somebody running after somebody else to kill him, and I know he's a marksman, it's point blank range, he's good at shooting, and he's definitely going to do it. He says, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to kill you, and he's right up to him, and just before he pulls the trigger, I pull the trigger on that guy. So obviously that's wrong. Don't try this at home. Don't do it at all, ever, anyway. It's obviously wrong, and what I should have done is shot the shooter. Of course. That's not the shaila. The shaila is now, would I be put to death for that?
Mm-hmm.
So
the question, if you, so to speak, took
preemptive action,
or you took his one, maybe you took his action, so to speak, away. But there's
again, I don't kill the shooter, which I should have done. I kill the victim.
Right.
So there's no question that what I've done is ritzicha. That's not the question. The question is it a capital offense?
Right.
Do I look at the reality and say the reality is that in 3 seconds that guy was going to be dead anyway?
Right. So you're not chayiv misa, but.
Or do I say the fact that somebody was going to kill him unlawfully doesn't make him, even though it's going to happen, but that doesn't make him a bar katola from now. Mm-hmm. Similar parallel to what he's saying over here in South Africa, where they're quite strict. But if doctors sign off that the mother is basakona, then it becomes mutter, and they have done that. That means in a day, in 2 days, they are going to kill this fetus. That's going to happen. Is that enough for me to say that if I get involved, that it's not an issa ritzicha, certainly not a capital offense, even for them, in which case then it's not, then there's no issa, because back to Reb Chaim Ozer, if it's not a capital offense for them, once they've decided it's sakana, then it's not going to be an issa for me either. Or do I say, given that from al pi halacha, we say it's still asa, so the fact that they're going to do it unlawfully does not make the person to a bakatala. That's the shaila.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would say bakatala only in the case where he's, so to speak,
When
either
it's
sick or like
or will be lawfully killed,
Right.
such as
So those two-
chayav misa and the
those
based
two would be-
Correct,
right.
correct. So that's his shaila. Very nice shaila. Let's see. Therefore, it might be considered like, the halacha we have of Baba Machtera, somebody who breaks into your house, we consider that he is a roidev. Gavra Katila, Kivin Shahutala Horga, you're allowed to kill a roidev. Ve'ein aleinu isser, oy dilma, or maybe we say, Kivin Shazehu Shaloi Kadin, given that what they are doing is incorrect, ube'etzem, and in essence it's also lahorgoi, ein b'matan efsharut ha'hapala lefi chukeihem la'asoise k'gavra Katila. V'chei nire ika. He says, I must come down on the side of saying that given that al pi halacha, what they are signing off, that the mother is b'sakona, and therefore they say it's okay to do, given that al pi halacha we don't agree with that, because there's no pikuach nefesh for a goy, therefore it remains asa, therefore it's not a bar katila, therefore I can't get involved. Therefore I, as a Jewish doctor, v'lochein chayav lehitchamek. How good is your vrit? You have to, in Yiddish we would say, man darf sich ausdrehen. How do you say it in German? It means you got to get out of it. You got to get out of it. Wie sagen das auf Deutsch? Man muss.
Dann muss man raus.
Dann muss man aus. Come on, you can do better than that.
Yeah.
In Yiddish it goes good. Man muss sich ausdrehen. You get out of it. You understand what he means, yeah? Hitchamek. Especially if there are other Gentile medical practitioners who are prepared to do so. There's lifnei iver. So he says there's no lifnei iver here. By me saying I'm not prepared to do it, that's not lifnei iver. If I would come to the Gentile and say, would you please do it? Or send him to, that was what Rav Zilberstein spoke about. To what extent if I give, the business card of my Gentile colleague, is that? But if I just say, I'm not doing it, even though in the knowledge that others will do it, which is awesome for them, that's not lifnei iver. Yeah? Mm-hmm. I'm just being mistalik. And the guy is doing it, there's no lifnei iver. V'lochein nira, therefore it would seem, this is his final psak, in this tshuva, he paskins chad v'chalak, unilaterally, unequivocally, unambiguously. Here's the psak. Drum roll, please. A Jewish medical practitioner may not perform an abortion on a Gentile fetus if it's more than 40 days. Also, before 40 days it's okay. If lefi hachoik, that it's okay. And you can give a kadurim and the zatzairach. Then you could be mekel.
From the Medina side.
Correct.
Okay.
That is one tshuva we've seen. By the way, as I'm saying this, I'm remembering something. My sister-in-law, I have a sister-in-law, whose father is a doctor in Atlanta, Dr. Joe Tate. You can actually Google him. He went on national news because he is a very experienced, what they call their OBGYN, obstetrician and gynecologist. He's in that area of women's health and delivering babies, etc. And he was on a very principled stand. He was took a stand against cesareans, where they would often, it seems in America, I don't know enough details, but it seems that it would be quite common for cesareans to be routinely scheduled, sort of almost to fit in, to use the metaphor, with the doctor's golf schedule kind of thing.
Whoa.
Not quite. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, right.
And he took a very principled stand on it, and he actually went on national TV. He refused to perform it, and he became quite an interesting figure. So that was his principal stance. I know it's not abortion, but it's about performing an operation for purely reasons of convenience. So whether he did that on basis of halachic considerations or not, I'm not sure. Possibly ask him. Anyhow, so this is the psak of Rav Moshe Sternbuch on this. Let's try and run through. It's not so long. It's actually a little bit shorter. Another tshuva that he wrote. Okay, and here he actually refers he refers, if I'm not mistaken, to this other tshuva. So I think this must have been done later. So this is where it says, top of the page, Cheshon Mishpat, Simon Tov Tov Ein Gimel. Okay? She'ela. Same she'ela. Roifei, hamachayvim oisei lasas hapala b'Yehuda b'goya mahu. B'Yehudia. Same she'ela. With a Jewish woman, it's poshut that only if al pi dinei Yisrael there is pikuach nefesh for the mother, then it would be mutter to perform the abortion. If there's no pikuach nefesh, and they are doing so mita'amim acherim, for other reasons, shenagu hayoim, zehu keretzach va'osar. As far as we're concerned, this is tantamount to murder and is forbidden. U'ba'ofen sheyesh pikuach nefesh le'eim, mutter lasas hapala. We've seen this. If the mother, in the case of a Jewess, if the mother is a Basakona, then there's a roidav situation. Mishmaya koradvala. The Rambam, he quotes Reb Chaim, which we've already done. Next paragraph. Ulegoya she'ein din pikuach nefesh lahatir machamosoi shum isur. For a goya where there is no din of pikuach nefesh to be matir any isur. V'oid she'uber nechshav nefesh she'neherogin ala ubreid. You see that as far as a goya is concerned, an uber is considered an absolute nefesh. Haraya, it's a capital offense for them. Tzorich biur. Ha'eichut alonu laraga uber afba pikuach nefesh shaloim hagoya. It's a real problem. How is it okay for us to do an abortion for a goya, even in a case of pikuach nefesh? Teshuvos is mesupek bezeh. Tzadadi demuta v'nira. Dainu mishum dekiven deheter roidef ugam la'akum. There is a din roidef also for an akum, and an uber is called a roidef, even though it's mishmai koradva v'heter rakshan nefeshim odif. Deloi shaykh ba'akum shenerogin al uber kuloi. Mikol makim nira shegam ba'akum yilud al kolponim odif uber roidef deichin laha'ima. Maybe we can get around it with through roidef, but this is only if there's a roidef. Leave out that paragraph. Go to the next paragraph. Will be yoser. Afim named the akum also largu belahatzelaim come be Israel. After also later largu akum nira demais. Now here he says another interesting svar. He said, furthermore, even if you're going to say that for a goy it is forbidden to kill an uber to save the mother, let's even assume that for a second, right? Mikol makom be Yisrael for a Jew, even though it's also min Torah to kill a non-Jew, obviously. But nira da maisen lahat solas ha'eim lo nikra retzach u'shvichus damim. But if what you are doing can be characterized by your motivation, not as an act of murder, but as an act of saving the mother, it's not called as ritzicha, it's an act of hatzalah. Ad kadei leser liyehudi la'regakum. It wouldn't be considered a retzach insofar as it would be forbidden for us to lahareg akum. For us to kill an akum when the motivation is to save another life, right? In this case, the mother, then that would not be considered retzach. Va'oid. Furthermore, he says, because unfortunately the way the law is, seems the law had probably moved on, or maybe he wasn't in South Africa anymore. This child is it's going to happen. Anyways, if you don't do it, somebody else is definitely going to do it. Ain't issa. Efsha the haver kagavra katila. He says maybe it's a gavra katila. Remember, he rejected this in his other tshuva. So maybe it's a gavra katila. V'shuv shonina mishnah zubechelik's base. Sim tov shalamad. Hey, that's the one that we learnt over there, that we've just learnt. Ulamaisa, final paragraph. Ulamaisa. Laharog uba b'muberes Yehudiya. If it's a Yehudiya, tzarich psak din rabbani sheyesh bezedin pikuach nefesh. Of course, we're going to require a proper psak of pikuach nefesh. Eitzel akum with a goya afim muter lahatzala, but lahapil mitamim sozialiyim she'elo yesoid oy mishum betza kesef, for financial reasons or purely social reasons. It's nicht angenehm. I decided I don't want to bring up this kid. Then it's definitely also levatzeach roya uber ach begoya bebeis chaylim. The fact that it's done by people in white coats and it's in a hospital is makes no difference. The language is actually really, really interesting. Because
I just understand. We say it doesn't require. Why do we say?
We're saying that for a Yehudiya, you require for sakona requires a psak din. Okay. For a goya, even if you're saying that it's mutter for hatzola, but to do it where there's no sakona, just for social reasons or for other reasons, then it is definitely also to do.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. Okay.
You know, today, by the way, I just want to mention something to you, which is really quite interesting. If you watch any of the debates about this thing, there are not many debates because people don't really engage in debate on this matter. They shout at each other usually. But the way that in congressional hearings, you will hear the following, that, you know, organizations, for example, such as Planned Parenthood, they frame the discussion in terms of an abortion is a medical service. And you are denying a person access to a medical procedure, to a medical service.
It's all about rights.
Yeah, but listen to the way that the way that the language is now framed. Listen to this. You know, it's like they're saying as if, you know, I need an appendicitis. I need an operation. There's an operation that I need, and you are denying me access for women's health to a medical procedure. We are just providing medical procedures, and if you go against this, you are denying people access. Now, if you frame the language that way, it's not only is it inflammatory, but it just the language itself makes it sound like, and this is the intention.
Yeah.
This is a medical procedure that I need. Who decided? Well, I decided. Okay, fine. But but we've then equated it with any other medical procedure that may not be elective, that is necessary.
Like
and that's what the language is, that's the way it's framed.
Right.
And this is what he's saying over here. You can't do it, even if it's in Beit Cholim. It makes no difference the fact that it's being done in a medical establishment and not in a backstreet clinic. And it's done by people in white coats and there's all sorts of reports and things. Doesn't, from our perspective, it makes it no less Ritzicha. In fact,
it's just professional.
It's professional Ritzicha. Yes. Yeah. Umuvtechani. Now here he ends off with something really interesting, fascinating insight. He says, I'm confident that a Jew who tells the hospital administration that it is against his ethical and moral principles, religious principles, to get involved in this procedure, he says, I'm sure Yichabdu Isai, they will honor him. I'm not so sure, but okay. And they won't make him do it. And that is the final sack from Moshe Sternbuch. So we learned 2 tshuvos from Moshe Sternbuch. Not tomorrow, but on Thursday, Mitz Hashem, we will wrap up on the legislative and the statements from the different Jewish organizations, and then we'll move on the following week to a new sugya.